Thanks for joining me today. We are talking about cheeks, tear troughs, mid-face region. Why is it that we have certain fat pads that develop here if we're losing fat when we get older? Why is it that we have fat down here and here if we're losing fat when we get older? What can we do to restore it? What are the new techniques out there? I'm gonna fill you in, stay tuned. So our face basically has 4 layers: skin, superficial fat, a membrane, and then underneath that we have deep fat. In the superficial fat region of the mid-cheek, we have 7 different compartments, and in the deep fat we have 4. So let's look at the superficial compartments and what they do. Basically, when we get older, we don't lose any fat in the superficial areas, and that's really important to note. Not only that, the lower 2/3 of each compartment actually hypertrophies or increases in size, and the upper third stays the same. So why would we be putting fillers into a superficial compartment when we don't have any fat loss there in the first place? So let's look at the tear trough area, for example. Let's say I have hollowing here or a concavity. Basically, that's because this is my deep fat and that's shrunk up, right? So it's shriveled up. So if this is originally my deep fat when I'm about 20 years old, and then I have my superficial fat laying on top of it, kind of something like this, then what happens is whenever I'm about 50 years old, this kind of shrivels down and the superficial fat ends up going vertically. And as a result, getting some swelling at the base. So what you should be doing is restoring the volume into the deep fat. Basically, essentially blowing it back up and bringing it back to its natural position. Now this is really important to note because a lot of times people will come in and they'll have a mild tear trough deformity here. And what will happen is the provider will state, you know what, we just need a 0.5 cc syringe here, and that'll work. 60% of the time it works perfectly, and then what happens? 6 months down the road, it just doesn't look natural because our superficial fat compartments move with us. Not only that, it's hydrophilic. And not only that, that area doesn't need volume replacement in the first place. So what we can do is avoid all that complication by restoring the problem. It's the deep fat that is missing volume. That is what's shrunk. So we restore that with a more hydrophilic or higher G' filler that rises like a souffle. We undertreat slightly, and the beauty of having that membrane that divides the deep layer with the superficial layer kind of smooths everything out. You'll never have those irregularities because of that membrane. So fix the problem, fix the deep fat, and avoid all these concerns. The reason why I wanted to do this video is because the tear trough is the most difficult area to treat. The other reason why is because it is confusing. It's easy to misinterpret why we have fat hanging around in certain areas of the face, yet as we know, when we get older, we tend to lose fat. Well, remember that. We lose fat in our deep fat, and our superficial fat layers don't change. If anything, it tends to swell a little bit more. So if you do have these bags where it's actually, pronounced, unfortunately you do have to have that surgically removed. But if it's now just an atrophy or you see a concavity, then you just need to restore that deep fat volume, and then everything will tend to fix itself out. Remember, if you're getting a little concavity here and you want to get that fixed, are you going to focus on your superficial fat or are you going to focus on your deep fat? It's the deep fat. Do it appropriately and you'll love it. Appreciate you guys being here. Stay tuned. I'm going to have another video coming out focusing on how we can accentuate the perfect cheek for women and men. All the best. Stay tuned.